Hi everybody, I'm Lee Isles and I'm here with Sarah Flynn and we are the Tenacious Tycoons. Today's session we've titled Wealth and the Universe, Are They Linked? So today we're going to talk about a couple of different topics under this. We're going to cover the law of attraction, we're going to cover a little bit about karma and a bit of give and take and that kind of thing. And then just some words around like the millionaire mornings and the habits of millionaires from what we've come across with people that we've interfaced with ourselves. So Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself and I'll let you crack on with the law of attraction.
Thank you so much, Lee. Obviously, giving me the most difficult topic to start with. Really appreciate that, throwing me in at the deep end. That's why we're friends, though. So, yes, as Lee very rightfully said, I'm Sarah Flynn, and this is Lee Isles, and together we are the Tenacious Tycoons, and we have set about trying to impart some of our words of wisdom of things that we have learned over the last God knows how many years in business. So we don't do business together as such until now. We are both business people in our own right, but we have paths have crossed in a networking group, and we decided to come together and try to hopefully do some good in the world and help people in various aspects of the life. So as Lee said, today we will be talking about wealth and the universe. So very deep topic, something that I, for no reason whatsoever, said to Lee I felt we should talk about late last night. So hence here we are today. But just to start off, my question was, are they linked? And to me, it's a rhetorical question because I'm a huge believer in the universe and higher beings and spirituality, and I definitely think that wealth and the universe are definitely linked. So as Lee was saying, the first thing that we were going to talk about was the law of attraction. So for anybody that doesn't know what the law of attraction is, definitely go look it up. There's a brilliant book called The Secret that will tell you all about it. But the high level overview is basically, it's the meaning that people will tend to attract people who are similar to them, or it might also be kind of a suggestion that people who have certain thoughts, they will attract similar thoughts and they will get similar results. So for example, it might be that you decide that 2 miles down the road there's your dream house that you've always wanted, and you start thinking about that thought. You'll hear people talk about manifesting things a lot in law of attraction, and that's sort of what that is. So thinking about it, visualizing yourself being in it, really getting a sense of the property and moving into it and seeing yourself doing it, and printing off pictures and sticking them on your walls and having vision boards and things like that. I suppose the kind of result of that, people would say, people who are believers in law of attraction, is that you would eventually get to move into that dream home because you have manifested it through your thoughts. And then similarly, it would work in a converse way. People think, so negative thinking is believed to attract negative experiences and other negative people, whereas obviously the positive thinking will attract the latter, and that will produce more desirable outcomes and experiences for your life. So I suppose kind of at a really high level, that is what law of attraction is all about. Now, just from my own personal perspective, I am a huge believer in the law of attraction. I have a vision board actually just behind me, though you can't see because I've got this lovely universe background in keeping with the theme of today. But I've had that for some time. All my goals that I set out at the beginning of the year, big things that I want to do and achieve, or it might be things that I want to buy, more materialistic things that I want to do through my wealth creation, all goes on that board, and I look at it and I see it every day, and I do lots of different funny and unusual rituals on a morning that I believe will bring me closer to those goals, and I will manifest those things that I want in life. And I certainly think that those things definitely so far have worked for me. So probably 5 or 6 years ago now, when I first started this, I decided that I wanted to be in property and I wanted to be successful in property. And I genuinely at the time had absolutely no clue about property. And I mean, absolutely none. I was from a banking background. I had no idea about the property world. But yet here I am today with a really nice property portfolio. And I do believe that all those rituals and things that I've taken on board, and those positive thoughts that I've had every morning that I've purposely built into my day, have significantly contributed to that. So I suppose that's really my overview and I suppose thoughts and take on law of attraction itself. So I'm going to pass it over to Lee because I know Lee absolutely loves the law of attraction, and I'm very sure, even though he tried to throw me at the deep end, that he has got absolutely bags to say about law of attraction, haven't you, Lee?
You just know me too well, Sarah. I can talk forever. I do. My experience of it's a bit different though, and I think it's probably worth sharing this, which will be, I think, quite helpful to people. Now, I only came across law of attraction maybe sometime within the last 18 months or so. It's not been that long. Now, my journey into personal development started a couple of years ago, where I found a book. It was listed on Amazon, and I thought, you know what, let's just take a punt on it. And it was by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it was called Becoming Supernatural. Now, I've always been a bit of a skeptic, so and I still am. I'm one of those people that I will believe something when it's proven to a degree. It doesn't mean I disbelieve until that point. It's just I kind of need to see things working, or to see things as they are really. Now, that book was definitely something I would not normally read. So I thought, you know what, let's just take a punt on it and see what happens. And it talks a lot about essentially law of attraction. It's about manifesting what you focus on, what you think about, what you believe in, and what you want to ultimately get out of life. Now, again, it's a bit, to me, even still today, to this day, it's a little bit airy fairy. And I know that again is going to be controversial, especially with people who really buy into all of this. But I think it has to be balanced. There's a very common perception with the law of attraction, which is that if you put it on a vision board, or you think this is what I want, that the universe is just going to give you it. And it's a big misconception, is that. Now, I'm not suggesting the law of attraction itself is wrong, but I think the concept, the understanding of it, the interpretations of it is slightly wrong. I believe what it actually is when you focus on something, which is where the law of attraction comes into play. So when you have created your vision board, when you meditate on, what you want to get out of life, what results you want to achieve, what nice things you can buy and own in the future, it's that you're putting your focus on that. And there is this saying that where you put your focus is where your energy goes. And I believe that is the crux of the law of attraction. So if you've really set your sights on, I want to be a multi-millionaire property portfolio landlord, and you manifest that through meditation, you visualize it, you picture yourself in the moment in the future, you really put yourself into that and feel it, which is a big part of a lot of this. It's not just thinking this is what I want, it's about how do I feel if I've achieved that. So putting yourself into that future state and saying, I've now achieved it, I'm now a multimillionaire property heiress, and this is what I've done, this is how I feel, these are the things that I've had to do to get there along the way, and the challenges I've overcome and how I've done it. But by being in that state, you're ultimately just keeping your absolute focus on what it is you want to achieve. So then the law of attraction kicks in, because it's not that the universe will give that to you, it's that you're asking the universe and telling the universe this is what you want, but you're just keeping absolute focus on it. And because that's where your energy then flows, you will eventually achieve that, whether that be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But there is the other side of this, the darker side of this, which is the negative side, unfortunately. And this is where my experience probably differs a little bit. Now, again, I'm not going to dive into it because we'd be here forever, but I've suffered with mental health issues for the majority of my life, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of it, which is why I'm sharing it. And the problem with that, and the problem with people who suffer from depression, who suffer with anxiety or have phobias or whatever they may be struggling with, that's what gets their focus and that's what gets their attention. So that when the law of attraction again kicks in, because they're focused on the negative, because they're focused on what's wrong or what's not working, that's ultimately then what the universe will manifest for them. So if you think everything's going badly and the world's about to end and you're just going to lose money hand over fist, or you're going to lose your job, or you're going to have a car accident, you will attract that. That's what the law of attraction does. So it's as much a negative thing as it can be a positive thing. And that's my key learning and my key share around it, which is, you will get what you focus on if you keep focused on it. You need to make sure you're focusing on the right things. So I don't know if you agree with that, Sarah, or not, but I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that actually, because I think it was a key point and probably something in my overview that I didn't really talk about, because I was probably just, I suppose, giving a broad view of what somebody would define, as the law of attraction. Um, and it is really about manifestation. But I think your point is absolutely crucial in the fact that it invariably gets very, very misconstrued, that people think, and I agree, there's this real sort of wrong and cross-purpose interpretation of, well, if I just sit at home and do nothing and think about this house that I want, then I'll get it one day. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So I learned something not too long ago, saw something that I just thought was absolutely fantastic. It was almost, if you could calculate success, what would that equation look like? And the equation, very simple. It says this. So it says maximum effort plus unwavering faith equals success. Now, I think that that is one of the best things I have ever seen when talking about what makes somebody successful. And I think the reason why it's key in this conversation is because, to me, that is exactly what the law of attraction is about. So the manifesting and all that sort of thing that we just spoke about is that unwavering faith, that absolute sheer belief and every second of every day in yourself that you are going to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And that's where that manifestation and the thoughts and the meditation part come in, and the vision boards. But to your point, Lee, which couldn't be truer, the first part around maximum effort has to be there, because make no mistake, every single person that is hugely successful has absolutely worked their off to be there, without a doubt. But that, to me, is what the law of attraction is. So it's having that end goal and always thinking about it, always driving towards it, having, like you say, absolute focus on it, laser sharp focus all the time, and having that kind of effort. But equally, it's not about sitting on your backside and doing nothing, because the two have to work in succession. You do have to put the hard work in, and I think that's almost what that is coming back to this whole topic of does wealth work with the universe or vice versa. To me it does, because if you are putting the effort in, then the universe rewards you for that effort. And I think that ultimately is the law of attraction. But I agree, it does completely get misconstrued into this, oh, well, if I just sit at home and do nothing and just kind of hope and pray, and I'll just sit and look at this Maserati that I really want every night, eventually it'll turn up on my drive. And that's also not true. But it's a two-way street, isn't it? It's about working with the universe. So the universe works back with you, and it really is a hand-in-hand relationship, as I see it.
Yeah, I guess to expand on that a little, and to expand a little bit on what I was talking about before, one of the things that I've certainly learned, and it's certainly a core belief of mine now, is that we're all beings of energy. We're made of energy. No matter who you talk to, whether it's a spiritualist or a scientist or a religious fanatic, it doesn't matter. They will agree on one concept, that we are composed of energy. They may word it differently, but if you think of it from a scientific perspective, there's all this dead space between, the atoms that compose the universe, should I say, and there's all the theories going around about dark matter and antimatter and things like that. But that empty space still has energy inside it, and that's where the universe has come from. It is composed of all these different elements, and yes, we don't necessarily know what everything is, but the thing that links it all is energy. And a key concept around the law of attraction is that piece around resonating at the right frequency, the right energy level. And that's, again, if you think about it, it's how radio waves work. We resonate the airwaves, the radio waves, in a certain frequency that we can hear. There's the concept of the dog whistle. You can buy a specialist dog whistle, and only dogs will hear it because of the frequency that it's pitched at. We cannot hear it as humans, but obviously dogs themselves can. And this is the same concept. If you resonate at a certain energy frequency, then you're going to not attract, but connect with other items, other people, whatever it may be, that resonate at that same level. So that concept of putting yourself in a future state of, right, I'm now a multimillionaire, I'm a successful business owner, I own such and such car, motorbike, cruise, yacht, whatever it might be, you're feeling as you are in that state at that point in time in the future, you're resonating at that frequency, which means that when you then go out into the world to perform your current present tasks, you've not only got the focus, but you are at that right energy level as well. And that's again what will bring it towards you. And again, it's kind of to wrap up what I was talking about before around the negative side of it, the impact that being negative had on myself. And it still does. Everyone has negative days, they have negative thoughts, but it tends to have that knock-on effect. And it can manifest itself physically, like we spoke about in the previous episode, or it can just be a series of events that happens because of that frequency that you put yourself in. You end up attracting the wrong types of things. But I also wanted to share another, I suppose, positive example, so that we're not just focusing on the downside, and I certainly don't want to just focus on the downside. But this again is a personal experience from my life, and I think it'd be good to get one from you as well, Sarah. But while I'm talking, I might as well finish mine off. So this was years and years ago. Now, currently, as Sarah's mentioned, we're both in property. I'm currently a property developer, and I'm also now a coach as well. But in my past life, not too long ago, I was in IT. And I did that for around about a decade or so. But prior to that, I actually made a right mess of my school days. A lot of personal reasons behind that, and family situations and things like that. But ultimately, I had a late phase of rebelling at our GCSE level, and I kind of screwed up a lot of my grades. I did the same thing at my A levels, and it meant that I never went to university to do my top choice. Now, I've got a very, very vivid memory of when I was discussing this with my father around what do I do. I'm still going to go to uni because that was always the plan. That's what they wanted me to do. But I couldn't go and pursue what I was thinking originally. So I said, well, I've got a real affinity with computers. I've been working with computers since I was probably about 11. I think I got my first one. Prior to that, I was always into video games and bits and pieces, but it was just the geek in me. And I've built computers, I've reprogrammed things, I've built websites, I've built software. This was all prior to university. And I was like, this is what I'm good at. Why can't I go and do what I'm good at and what I enjoy? And my dad said to me, well, you could, but the problem there is that it's going to be really competitive and you probably won't succeed in it. So I ended up going to uni and studying law, which I was interested in, but I ultimately hated. So I ended up leaving uni after a couple of years. And again, after another couple of years of drifting around, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I just said to myself, you know what? I'm good at IT. Why not just give it a go and see what happens? And I was absolutely resolute that this is what I was going to succeed in. And because I kept that at the forefront of my mind, I was successful in it, which is why I've now enabled myself to leave that industry, having achieved what I wanted to achieve, and now pursue my other passions, which are, helping people and building that wealth base through property. But if I hadn't have been that focused on it, hadn't been that resolute, and hadn't seen myself as being that IT geek, that IT professional, the successful person that I became, I don't think I would have achieved it. And it's a very basic example of the law of attraction in action, really, is that one. So as I said, Sarah, I'll hand it back to you. If you've got an example of where it's worked for you, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I think actually that's a really interesting point, because I think just by sheer coincidence, you and I have led sort of similar paths in that regard. Though I never actually went to uni, but I suppose this is about the law of attraction in a sort of converse way to you. So I always wanted to go to university, actually, to do media and hopefully become like maybe a camera woman and do some like big films, and really that was kind of what I want to do. I'm very, very sort of artistic, and I really excelled in my A levels at sort of drama, media, music. I play the piano and clarinet. So I do a lot of kind of arty things, I suppose. And I really wanted to go do media. That was like where my heart lied. I'd got an A star at my A levels. I really wanted to go to uni. I'd got all the grades. I'd done everything to get going. And I went and applied for these universities, and I got in, and basically just through a series of events, my parents just coaxed me into not going. Because a little bit like what you were saying, Lee, they just said, you're going to throw your life away. You just want to go get drunk, Sarah. It's not for you. You should be doing banking. My mum was in banking. I do banking. It's a safe job. It's a good job. All the stuff that your parents do because they care about you and they do it out of love. But it's that kind of whole piece of, like you say, you then sort of manifest that because you believe, okay, well, fair enough, that's not for me then, and that's not who I should be. And it's irrelevant now because obviously I found my way and I love property and I absolutely love what I do. But there's always that thing in the back of my mind as like, what if that had have worked out to me and I was sat in Hollywood now and I was producing big films? But I will never know, because in a similar regard, the law of attraction, worked in that way. So I was surrounded with people who were like, Sarah, this is not a good idea. It's definitely not for you. You need to forget about it. And therefore I did. So I just put it out of my mind, and for whatever reason that never happened for me. So I think that's interesting because, like I say, on that complete flip side, that was me manifesting the fact that I couldn't do that because I listened to what everybody else said. So then I was like, okay, can't do that. I'll just go work in a bank. And that's what I did for a long time. So I definitely think the law of attraction plays an enormous part in society, much more than people give it credit for. But I think your point earlier, Lee, was absolutely on the money, in that the concept of it does get misconstrued. People think that just sitting down on the sofa and watching TV, and dreaming about the house is the law of attraction, but it's not. It's definitely far from that. It is in visualizing and manifesting and meditating heavily on what you want, and at the same time having 100% focus and effort, and sheer hard work, and the universe will then come back and give you the hard, well-deserved rewards that you obviously deserve. So I do agree with you there. I think it's a concept that definitely works. I've seen it time and time again, but people just miss that piece about how important it is to actually do the work and put in the work for the universe to come back and sort of give you what you want.
Yeah, and it's the messaging around it as well. There's so many people who are on the stage speaking and are preaching this kind of thing, but they don't fill in the gap. And it's a problem that we have with some of the kind of later years education, for want of a better phrase, where people go to various courses or join masterminds, work with mentors, and there's always that little bit missing. And in the case of the law of attraction, that is that little bit that's missing. It's the reality, because at the end of the day, if you turn around to people and say, on one hand, okay, you can sit and you can meditate and you will have the law of attraction kick in and you will end up with the house of your dreams, the life of your dreams. That sounds really good. If you then turn around to them and say the same thing, but also you're going to have to really work your ass off and you're going to have to hustle a little bit, and it's not going to happen straight away, and you'll have bad days and you'll have good days and you'll have amazing days, and then it'll all fall apart and then you have to do it again, and it doesn't sell as well, does it? So there is
doesn't
that
have the
little
same
bit
ring.
missing.
When you say it like that, Lee, I'll be honest, it didn't have the same ring. But that's the truth of it. Of course it is, of course. I feel that we've covered that topic quite well, actually. So the second thing that we were going to speak about today was karma. And I'm very sure that most people listening to this know what karma is, but this is all about what you do is gonna come back and either reward you or bite you on the bum, depending if you are a good or a bad person. So do I believe in karma? I do believe in karma. I had to think about that then. I do believe in karma, yes. But I also think that sometimes, and this is just because of my own personal beliefs, think that karma doesn't necessarily come around in the same life that you are in now. So I think that karma sometimes, because I believe in life after death, I think that sometimes karma may come around in your sort of next life. So when you go up and, as I believe, you become sort of a higher being, and you go back to the universe, I do believe that sometimes you are faced with those problems or things that you may have done wrong in your life at that point, and you have to deal with them then. So I do think that karma takes many forms, and I do think that sometimes it does happen in the life that we're in now, but I do also think that sometimes it can happen in sort of different vessels and bodies that you encompass throughout different lives that you have. So Lee, I am gonna let you talk a little bit now about karma, because we've never spoke about this before, so I'm really keen to know what your thoughts are on karma.
Okay, a little bit different to yours. However, not a million miles away, shall we say. So karma, I'm a big fan of. I like the concept of it. My beliefs are a little bit different. So I don't necessarily believe in life after death. Again, it comes back to this thing of, I believe in the things that are kind of proven to me to a degree. Faith is not something that comes easily to me, or certainly in the past hasn't come easy to me. It's starting to more, in the last few months, shall we say, as I've delved into more of this. But throughout history, karma's been there in one form or another. You've got life after death, you've got heaven and hell, you've got the balance between good and evil, you've got black and white. It's always been there, your yin and the yang. It's everywhere you look. Ultimately, you can't get away from it. So it does exist. There's no denying that. I guess it's the extent to what it exists in. Now, the way that I see this, and another part of what I've learned more recently and what I'm a big fan of, is Hermetic philosophy. Now, there's a book called The Kabbalion, and for anyone who's interested in this kind of thing, I would definitely say go and read it. It's not long. It's something like 120 pages. It's not long at all. But the Hermetic philosophy is all around energy and energy exchanges and the meaning of this in the universe, which is really key to what we're talking about today. But for me, it's that balance again, and that's what I've really started digging into. It's the balance between everything in the universe and the energy exchange that we've talked about. And karma is nothing more than that. Now, whether that is a balance between life and death, so you have your life, you do what you need to do with your life, and then you have your death, and that may be where you get the benefit and reap the rewards. That's certainly a belief. It could be the belief of the energy that you put in day to day. You do a good deed, you get a good deed in return. That's perfectly acceptable as well. So I'm happy with either approach, either viewpoint. Personally, I think the biggest thing around karma that I just love about it is the fact that it's really just there teaching people to be good people. It's the message of it. No matter what your belief, the message is, if you do good things, you're going to get good things in return, whether that's now, whether that's a few months down the line, a few years down the line, in another life, in an afterlife, whatever it is. It's teaching people to do good now, and it's that whole message of do good by your neighbor. So yeah, that kind of sums up my thoughts, Sarah. So I don't know what you think about that now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I know exactly what you're saying, that karma undoubtedly exists. And actually, while you were talking, I was just listening to you, and I was thinking about actually something I'd said in the previous episode that I'll probably say time and time again, but actually this is complete karma when I think about it, is anybody that's ever become very, very wealthy and very financially successful in life, they always say the same thing, which is don't focus on the money. Even though that's the end goal and that's what you want, don't focus on the money. Do the right thing and the money will come. And I've heard this phrase 1,000,001 times, and I've heard it from lots and lots of very, very wealthy people. And actually, that is karma in its truest form, because, a lot of people say that the moment you stop focusing on the money is often when it all comes right and everything comes, and you get all the money that you ever wanted. And I do think, particularly in the property space, if you translate that to a real life example, I do think that's true. So from a property perspective, what does that mean? Well, I think that means if you're not focused on the money, then what are you focusing on? Well, you're focusing on, I suppose, getting good quality homes for people, ensuring the safety and welfare of people. You've been a responsible landlord. You're fixing repairs as soon as there's any issues. You're making the tenants feel like it's their home. You're not intruding in their lives. And And what does that give you then? Well, it gives you a happy tenant that wants to pay your rent every month. So in a real kind of simple analogy, I suppose, of that, how is that translated into real life? Well, in my world, to me, that's how, and in your world, obviously, Lee, as well, because we're both in property, that to me is how that's translated. So if I do the right thing by my customers, shall we say, they are going to continually pay me the rent that I want, you know. So I think actually, from that perspective, you know, karma is definitely a force to be reckoned with, because, you know, if you looked at that by the other kind of the other token, and this is what we're seeing a lot at the minute, is all these a lot of old school landlords that have not taken care of the properties, or slum landlords, it's now been sort of coined the phrase. And I think that that's a similar thing again, because the people who are not looking after the properties, these landlords, you know, they're just leaving it in ruin, and there's water coming down the walls. And you'll have seen this, Lee, sometimes you go to view a property and it's tenanted and it's just horrible, and you don't know how anybody's let somebody live in that condition. But, you know, the same token, they're probably charging them £100 a year to live in it, because they know you know, so those people aren't making any money. So it's a complete thing about doing the right thing, and it will come back, and you'll reap the rewards. But I think in that analogy, I just wanted to give that example, because I think there's a clear connection. You know, when you look at that, how does that physically work? How does karma work? I think that was just like a nice sort of example, I suppose, as to in the real world how that plays out.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly apt example. I actually want to add two onto that, and it's in the same space. So, you know, one of the pillars that we're talking about is property as a side thing for what we're doing as Tenacious Tycoons. So I don't want us to dwell on it too much, because that's not today's session. We can certainly do that another time. But two very brief examples. So one is just a perfect follow-on from what you were just saying. There was a property that I went to view last year. Now, the landlord had invited me to go and look at it. It was a house multiple occupancy, so it was a shared living place. It was not. It was in one of the not so nice areas of Leeds, so there was obviously a certain level of expectation going into it anyway. But when the landlord contacted me, he'd contacted me to see if I wanted to take over the management of it. And he said he was just fed up of having to deal with the tenants. They were leaving the place in a mess, and they weren't looking after things. It was just dirty all the time, and he was just fed up of it all. So I said, well, you know, I'll go have a look. Why not? And I turned up, and there's only two ways I can describe it. One is it was a slum. It was filthy. It was horrible. It was just in such a poor state of repair. But then also, when he showed me around the property, when we finally went downstairs, so from the entranceway, there was a door right in front of you as you went in, and it took you downstairs into what was the basement and has been converted to living space. It was like going into a dungeon, because there was no lighting. And I'm just thinking to myself all the way around this, well, you're providing this quality, this level, you know, what you're getting as an experience as a landlord from your tenants is perfectly in tune with that, because, you know, why would they treat it any better? I mean, how people are living there, I honestly don't know. That's a personal viewpoint of mine. And I know obviously some people are in certain circumstances unfortunate that they have to live in places like this, but it's not right. And it's certainly not why I entered the property game. You know, it wasn't to provide housing like that. So that was one example. And the next one that I wanted to share was, again, it's a personal example, and I'll try and keep this one brief. But despite being a landlord for myself for quite a few years, last year was the first year I decided to run this as a proper business, and to really start looking into the different investment strategies and opportunities you have in property. So again, I'm not going to dig into this, because we'll cover it separately in what we're doing. But when I decided to start the business, I actually left work. So as I've already mentioned, I was in IT, and I decided to take a break from that and gave myself, you know, 6 months to get the business going and to recoup some of the money that I'd pumped into trading and masterminds and things like that. But the problem I had then was I was so focused on the money, because it wasn't about greed. It wasn't about I wanted the money. I just wanted to recoup the money that I'd spent and build the business. But because of that, I focused on the strategies that are deemed as being really high cash flow, but they're so contrary to what I want to do and my values, that I never did anything with it, because I just didn't want to. Whereas now I'm doing property development, which is what I want to do. It takes a bit longer. There's more to it. There's more complexity, and it perfectly suits what I do. And it means that I, instead of taking over properties that are in a poor state of repair and having to muddle through it. I get to actually go off and create new living spaces for people from scratch, more or less, and I can create that to a standard that I would expect anyone to provide. But now I've started doing that, things have started happening. So I've made more progress in this business in the last probably 6 months than I did throughout the majority of last year, because I'm now focused on the right thing. So it's a combination between the law of attraction that we've already spoken about and focusing on what it is that I'm wanting to do and desire to do, but also the karmic response to it. I'm now doing the right thing by myself and by other people, and I'm going to be seeing the rewards from that.
I think that's a really big point about doing the right thing by yourself, actually, because that's quite a big topic that you could almost, you know, explore in a whole different
I'm sure
episode.
we will.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. But I think that's a really good point, is doing the right thing by yourself from a karmatic perspective, because I do think that that's one of sometimes the hardest things, like you were saying. But again, you were focusing on the money. So you're doing that, you were in that trap that we've all been in. Oh, I need to recoup the money for my training, or I need the money, maybe because you genuinely can't live. Like some people, when they start out in business, are in that situation. They're desperate for the money. They have to get the money to be able to survive. So it's really difficult to then say to somebody, okay, just don't focus on the money. And just do what's in your heart. And it's hard to say that, but every single person that's ever made it, if you want to work for a better phrase, in life, always says, I went with my heart, and it was really hard, but it absolutely paid off. And they're always the people that end up succeeding. So I think that's a really good point, well made, to be fairly, really good point, well made.
And it's not just about the succeeding either, it's about getting the reward from it. And I don't mean necessarily the monetary reward, but it's the satisfaction, more what I mean. If you achieve something that you have done because you don't like what you've been doing, well, you might achieve, but you won't be happy about it. But you work on what you love and what your passions are, what your interests are, then absolutely you will be so satisfied in what you're doing, even when it all goes to shit and it falls apart, which it quite often does, to be fair. So yeah, I think again, we could go on forever on this one, but I think we've covered that fairly well now. So the last topic we had on our list for today was to talk about millionaire habits. So I know you do the millionaire morning, Sarah, and I'm a big advocate of having a good morning routine. It's something that I do with my clients. But there's more to it than just the miracle morning and the millionaire morning. It's all around just the general good habits that lead to success, that lead to being productive and getting grounded in business. So again, I'll hand that to you, Sarah. Do you want to kick off with that one and share your first experience?
Absolutely, because I did say right at the start that I have quite a ritual on a morning, and that's not to say that it doesn't waver sometimes, because like most people in life, I'm not a saint and I can't do everything the same every single day, and we all stray from the path, and I do have a young child and a family, so it's difficult. Of course it is. And I'm not going to say to anybody that I just wake up and this stuff's easy and that it came to me overnight either, because it's difficult to form a habit, and particularly a habit that doesn't necessarily sit comfortably with you at the start, because a lot of these things that people do and that I do and probably lead us now definitely weren't in your sort of in your DNA. Like nobody really characteristically as a person will stand in a mirror and do affirmations to the self. Like that's not really a done thing in society, and most people probably would think you were cuckoo, but there is a real, I believe, benefit to it. So there's a number of things that I personally do. My big one that Lee says that I do every morning as soon as I wake up, before I do anything else, is I do something called miracle morning or millionaire morning. And that is essentially where I open a book. And actually, while we're talking, I am just going to take a look in it for a better explanation. So every morning I wake up, in fact, for people that are watching this, I'll show you. So this is my little book, and I've got a million of them because they fill up really quickly. But I essentially, at the top of the page, I write what day. So actually, at the beginning of this book was day 81 was where I started in the year. And this was the 23rd of the 3rd this year. So I will start off by writing the attitude that I choose today. So on this day, I said that I was happy. That was the attitude I was choosing. I was going to be really cheerful. I've even kindly put a smiley face next to it, which is nice. What I'm thankful for, that's my favorite bit that I write about. What am I thankful for the, for that day? And I actually wrote here, so I must have been having a bad time in March. It says just surviving recently. Just getting through physically and emotionally, on a personal and business level through lockdown is what I actually wrote. So, you can see how those things vary, because then in other days, really nice things like yesterday was I won an award, so what am I thankful for today? For winning a property award and for the best property company in West Yorkshire, and also for business excellence award for time crisis. So they're the sort of things that I would write about. I always write what a dream goal is for me every day. So one of them recently was to secure a big project that I've been looking at for a while. Just all sorts of things really. Then I always write an affirmation, and then at the end of the day I come back and just very quickly write a day reflection. It's normally literally a couple of words or a sentence. And as you can see from the book, as I said, it's a very small book. It doesn't take a lot, and it might take me 5 minutes, but I've been doing it for about 2.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. And if I ever miss a day, I do go back and fill them in, because that's the sort of person that I am. But I really enjoy doing that. And then once I've done that, I will go to the mirror and I'll do some affirmations, and they could be anything that I feel, so it might be anything from I'm strong, I'm successful, I look really well, I'm really healthy. It could be anything, I'm really lucky to be on this planet. And that, that really could, like I say, could be absolutely anything, but that's important to me because it makes me feel good. And it's hence the term affirmation. It's affirming to you, that you are okay, that you're here, everything is okay, you are going to have everything you want in life, so it could be that you stand there and say, I'm going to be a multimillionaire by 2022, whatever that wants to be. Something I don't personally do, but I quite like, but I just feel a bit ridiculous, is power poses. Some people are really into power poses, and that's a really big thing. There's a lady, first name Amy, and I can't remember her surname now. She sort of was half a bit of a founder of power poses, and she has a really good talk on power. I think it was a TED talk on power poses, and she stands and she's giving it the big guns, and it's all about feeling, opening your chest and standing. I suppose it's a little bit like how I imagine a power pose a lot of the time is when you see people running through a field freely, with their arms out. It's that kind of freedom of just letting go and making yourself feel confident and like you belong in the world, and they're all really important things. And I will stop there because I'm conscious I've said quite a lot about my own things, but exercise is something else that I engage in regularly, but I'm sure that is definitely part of Lee's habits. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to let Lee talk about things that kind of he does, or things that he knows about that he thinks work really well.
Yeah, I'll just cross over as well with the power pose just to finish on off a little bit. What I learned recently is that a good way of explaining a power pose is it's what superhero does. So when you see a picture of Superman with his hands on his hips, or it's Wonder Woman, or any of what they do, the theatrical trailers and posters that you get for things like the Avengers and stuff like that, where you've got these very much images where they are posing ultimately, even if they look like they're primed for action. But that's ultimately what the power pose is about. It's about getting yourself into a state that you're ready to go and you're ready for action. So yeah, I just wanted to add that one in. But in terms of the miracle morning bit, the millionaire morning, whatever people want to call it, some people talk about the 5 a.m. club, some people are part of the 4 a.m. club. I think it's not so much about how you do it in terms of, there's not really a set way of doing it that works for everyone. It's more about the routines and taking it away from just the morning side of it, routines in general. And I think it'd be really good for us to do a session on routines at some point, because it's a thing that I'm hugely passionate about. And it's a key part of what, again, I coach people on, because they're so powerful. The miracle morning aspect of it, that is just another routine. It's what you do in the morning that gets you ready for that day ahead. So it's interesting what you said there. I mean, you're doing your journaling on the morning, which is fantastic. That's what a lot of people do. And it's a brilliant time to do it. So, congratulations. You're one of those people that is doing it and doing it well and getting the benefit from it. But it is something that's really powerful, and it helps you know what you're doing and where you're going. For me, I do it a little bit differently. I do the same thing, but what I actually do is I do it the day before. So when I do my reflection the day before, I also plan the next day. So it's a matter of, I look at my calendar. I mean, as people get to know me, they see that I am the most organized person in the world. It's just the way my brain works. But my calendar is so organized and so fixed, and just the way I run it, it's a little bit anal, but it works for me, and it helps. But it's all routine based. So what I can do then is I can look at my snapshot for the next day and just say, right, this is what I've got to do tomorrow. That's in my diary. It's fixed. There's no excuses for not doing them. And then it's a matter of, right, well, what's on my task list, my wider task list of things that I need to do outside of those events, or what's on the top of my important task list that I've got to do for the next week or 2 weeks. And it's about planning. So that's like my way of doing a daily plan, but then also I have a weekly plan, a monthly plan, yearly plan. And again, that's all goal setting, which again, we will cover at a separate stage in more detail. But it then leads into your routine. So that actually frees my morning up. So what I then do is I put into my schedule, into my calendar, fixed events, which are for what I do in the morning. And I mean, again, this is how ridiculous my calendar gets. It gets in there events for when I wake up, what my wake up routine is, which is to do a bit of meditation, to do a bit of visualization, to do a bit of stretching. Then I've got an event for going and exercising. Then I've got an event for coming back from the exercise and getting in the shower. And then I've got an event for having my breakfast. But these things are blocked out in my diary as well, so they're inexcusable. I cannot miss them. At the moment, I'm carrying a couple of injuries, so I'm not exercising as much as I may have once, but it's that whole thing of, that is my routine, and that sets me up for the day. And I am one of those early risers. I naturally wake up around about 5 a.m. I can get up early, I can get up a bit later if I really want to. But no matter what time I get up, I exercise that same routine, and that just sets you up for that day. And why I love routine so much, even beyond the morning routine, is it's repeatable actions that are nice and easy to do, largely on autopilot, because you know what the routine is. What's the routine for going to work? Well, the routine might be you go to your desk, switch on your computer, look at your emails and crack on. What's your routine for having breakfast? Do you have a standard breakfast that you have every day? I mean, you and I were talking about this yesterday, Sarah, about how boring my diet is because of the way that I do it. And again, we'll cover that, I'm sure, at another point. But I have a routine for that, because my life is run by routines for when I want to be inflexible, for when I want to know what I'm doing, so that I can be absolutely focused. And that's what I found through speaking to really wealthy people, that they all run the majority of their life where they've been successful. It's been through having routines that they can follow. Having the morning routine is an absolutely critical one to do, because it allows you to set up your day. So for me, I don't want to waste time doing my journaling, because I do that the day before. And it means that when I come to work the next day, I literally just have to look at my journal and say, well, what am I doing today? What have I put in my task list for the day? But the time that I then save, which granted it's not exactly a lot, it's 5-10 minutes, that's time I can put into doing things for myself, which are not business related at that point. So for me, it's more about the switch off of, I get up and I'm not straight into business. I'm actually just setting myself up for the day, building things up for myself. Then when I go into business, I've already prepped that the day before, so I can crack on, and then I've got my routines throughout the day. And yeah, that's tends to be how I run mine. So have
Yeah,
you got
I
any more
think
thoughts, Sarah?
yeah, I was going to say, I think actually you brought some really good points there, and I think the whole wider piece really about the element of routine, because I agree with you. I think very, very wealthy people have very strict routines. And bringing this all back round, my argument and what I believe is the reason that they have these strict routines is because when you create a habit and you create a routine, good habits and routines like we've just talked about, all those things are continually setting your intention to the world. So like a power pose, for example, is setting your intention as to who you are. You are showing the universe who you are through that. You know, likewise, when you were talking about, you know, your meditation or your stretching on a morning, you know, you are spending that time in the zone, you know, in your state of meditation, setting your intention to the world. What is it that you want? You know, what do you want from the day, the week, the year, you know, however far you want to take that. But there is that element of routine and morning routine, you know. And it's funny that you mentioned the old 5 a.m. club, because that comes up time and time again, but it's absolutely true. I also wake up around a similar time, and there does seem to be this strange correlation of people who've been very successful in life, as to people who, all those people have really got up very early every morning, and had a very strict routine, and made sure that the first probably hour, 2 hours of the day has nothing to do with business, and solely focuses on themselves, you know, whether that be through meditation, through mindfulness, through physical exercise, through, you know, dieting, whatever form that takes, you know, like you were saying, through the journaling. It's all about all those things that are about you setting your intention to work with the universe, so the universe will work with you in return. And this is why all these things are so linked, and why I'm such a big advocate of believing that that wealth and the universe are completely connected, because I just don't see how they can't be. But that's obviously just my personal opinion. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the whole point is around routine, isn't it? Whatever routine you form, and you were absolutely right in what you were saying, that not everything works for everybody. And that's a little bit like I was saying, you know, I don't like power poses. I just feel a bit stupid. It's not for me. But some people absolutely love a power pose. You know, it makes them feel, it can go from literally making somebody feel on the floor to the next minute feeling like the god. Like some power poses for people are that powerful, you know. And that's a little bit like for me with my miracle morning stuff. You know, sometimes I wake up and yeah, it's 5 a.m. and I think, God, this is early, Sarah, why are you doing this to yourself? But once I'm up, you know, and I start filling in my journal, and I'm like, you know, what am I thankful for? And I'm writing, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what, life's good. Life's, when you really start to think about it, you're like, God, Sarah, you've got loads to live for. This is great. Like, and you do. And it's about focusing on those things, because like you say, it's all about where you put your energy. And once you get that laser sharp focus and you put your energy into those things and you make the effort to do those things, then the universe grants you the things that you want in return.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one thing I just thought of while you were talking there as well is around about that early rising bit. So I would argue that it's definitely more around the routine aspect of it than it is the fact that you're getting up early. However, there's an element of, I believe, that you get more out of the day by getting up early. And my logic behind that, and again, I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail another time, but if you think about how most people operate, as the day progresses, they get tired, they run out of energy, or they start winding down because they're thinking, well, I've got my time at the end of the day to wind down. Now, when you're in business yourself, which again is another big topic of ours, you tend to actually carry on working because there's always things that happen during the day. So you don't really get that downtime. You know, if you think most people who work the 9 to 5, they cut off at 5, they go home, and that's their time, and that's fine. That's absolutely great for them. But as business owners, as entrepreneurs, you don't necessarily have that. As much as you might plan that into your day, inevitably something will happen, and that's not every day. It's not to be a horror story. It's just what happens. It's, you know, it's an occasional occurrence. But if you then have that happen later on in the day, and you then lose out on your time for self-reflection, for your time for yourself, for relaxation, for exercise, meditation, whatever it is, well, you've lost that for the day. Whereas if you start your day with that, regardless of the time that you get up, but obviously the earlier generally the better, because you avoid losing out on the time of the day that other people are up. Again, you think most people tend to open the doors and work around 8, you know, from 8 o'clock onwards. So if you beat that, if you were getting up at 8 a.m. and trying to do, you know, 2 or 3 hours of your own time, well, you've lost maybe half the day that other people use. Whereas if you get up that little bit earlier and say 4, 5 a.m., those 3 hours take you to the time that everyone else starts as well. So you get your time for self-reflection because it's fixed in your diary. It's the first thing you do. You then get to start your working day, for want of a better phrase, the same as what a lot of other people do, especially if you're going out and engaging with companies who open the doors at 9 a.m. But then if things do overflow and things happen during the day, or you have a fire you need to put out, whatever it may be, and that creeps into your evening time, well, you're not losing your personal time because you had that originally. And I think that's where it tends to work a lot better, getting up a bit earlier. That's just my thoughts on that one, but I thought it was worth a share.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's absolutely right, because that's where a lot of people get into that sort of bad routine, that cycle of I'll do it tonight, I'll do it tonight, I'll do it tonight, oh, tonight's gone, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And it's very easy, very easy. We've all been there. I'm sure you've been there, Lee. I've definitely been there, you know, very, very easy to get into that routine. You know, I think what's interesting is somebody once said to me that, and I assume this is fact, he said it was fact, that it takes 21 days to create a habit, and like a proper habit. And by that point, you will either be so into it, you'll probably do it for a very long time, or you just will hate it and you'll bin it off and you'll never do it again. So and I actually think that's quite true, because I put that into practice then. So I started doing things for 21 days as part of my routine. And I did very quickly in 21 days find out what I liked and what I definitely didn't like. So I think if anybody's listening to this and they're thinking, oh, I'd like to get into a routine, but I just, you know, I've heard you guys speak about lots of different, good ideas today, but I don't know what's for me. Just maybe try one at a time for 21 days. Have a go at a couple and see how that works. I also think, the point you made about getting up early, it is about getting there before anybody else, so you don't lose that time. But I think there's also this thing about, some people, as we do know, just aren't morning people. And that's, and that can be challenging. However, what I would say to those people is, once upon a time, I also wasn't a morning person, and I had to force myself to be a morning person. And I think that just comes down to how much you want something. Because I absolutely love, and I mean love, getting up in the morning now. And that's potentially just because I created a new habit. And who knows, but I absolutely love it. There's no noise, it's peaceful, nobody, it's just honestly one of my favorite times of the day. But it took me a while to get there, and I did have to do that in sort of increments, sort of wake up at maybe 7 as opposed to 8, and then maybe 5:30 as opposed to, and I had to really work on that. But it's just finding, exactly to your point, Lee, a new routine, isn't it? In whatever way, it's just creating a new habit and a new routine to ultimately create the life that you want and put your intentions out there to the universe, and to create the wealth that you desire and that you deserve.
Yeah, it's habit replacement. That's what you've done there, and that's a big part of what coaches in general will do with people. It's about reframing thoughts and feelings and habits. And yeah, there's an element of truth to the 21-day rule for creating a new habit. People will argue all over as to how long these things can take, and it does vary. That's just the average, I believe. But it's absolutely possible to change habits. I never used to be an early bird, as it were, and to be honest, I still find it easy to stay up later than I do to get up early. But I know that I can do it, so I do, and I get the benefit of waking up early and doing the things in the morning. So I find that really, really helpful. And just one last thought to leave with everyone on the point of habits. It was a saying, I believe, came from Jim Rohn, which is that the key to mastery is actually repetition, and that's where habit forming comes. So it's the same as you said there, Sarah. You want to get up early. Obviously, a good way of doing that, as you did, is to incrementally reduce or lower the time that you get up in the morning, so that you're gradually getting closer to the time that you are aiming for. It's the same with anything. With any goal, you also want to make incremental steps towards it, but then it's repeating that consistently for whatever time period that you need to form that new habit. So I figured I'd leave it there, because I think we've covered the topics we wanted to quite well today, and we've got a few more ideas there for future sessions as well. But is there anything else that you'd like to share, Sarah, before we clock off today?
No, do you know, I completely agree. I think it's a great place to leave the conversation, Lee. I think it's been a great discussion. I agree we've covered some really interesting topics today, and I'm really excited to see kind of what the reaction will be. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, please like, share, comment. You know, we're always interested to see what people think about our topics. We know that they're a bit weird and wonderful, particularly this week, but you know, that's what it's all about. You know, it's about sharing knowledge, sharing opinions and ideas. So please, if you are interested, you found this interesting, we'd love to hear your thoughts, or get in contact with us on any sort of social media. And yeah, please just come and feel free to speak to us about anything we've discussed today. So thank you again, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Just if you're watching this, make sure to follow us, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse. We're kind of all over the shop, both as Tenacious Tycoons, but also individually as well. So absolutely engage with us, and we will definitely engage back. So yeah, thanks for that, Sarah. It's been a really good session, and we'll leave it there. Yes.
Yeah, thanks again, guys.